This is the internet court of truth and lies. If you've got something that you think is the truth in the media, or you think it's a lie in the media, then you can take it to up to 8 jurors and make your case as to whether it's the truth or a lie. That's facilitated by having 8 verdict questions, which are standard for any truth or lie. They're never the perfect questions. Their purpose there is to help enforce moderated dialogue, to have certain questions that are always asked, to keep people on topic, which is whether or not something is truth or a lie. Today, what I'm doing is a case that I call Responsible Umair. Hake, he's British. He's from Canada, I think. He moved to Britain years ago. He's a really good writer. Over the years, he's written lots of articles with a long list of people that follow him. The last couple of years, he's disappeared. And he all of a sudden appeared with this article, which is called The Coming Wave of White-Collar Suicides. This article is about artificial intelligence. The argument that he's making is going to basically cause very large numbers of white-collar people to commit suicide because AI will take their jobs. This article he wrote on June the 30th, so just a few days ago. He gives you a bit of his background, which turns out to be interesting. He may have been originally an American, I don't know. I had known prior to this that he had come from Canada, and he lives today in London. He would write articles like this, essentially doom and gloom articles, where he would tell you things that are happening that are very bad and what they're going to do to people and so forth and so on. This is an article like that. What he's saying is that AI is going to do is it's going to replace basically all the white-collar jobs. As a consequence, the white-collar people are going to no longer be able to make a living. They will become so depressed or so upset that large numbers of them will commit suicide because they can't make enough money to survive, having lost their jobs to AI. I thought this was an interesting article. It did have Grok summarize Umair's article in 6 sentences. I said, Grok, you got 6 sentences to summarize Umair's article. Grok did a pretty friggin' good job summarizing the article in 6 sentences.
They're long sentences.
They're long sentences. Grok did that all by himself.
Yeah.
I could have probably said to keep each sentence under 10 words.
Yeah,
would have done it. I don't know. One of the things that he said is that these articles have been written by other people, economists, about how the AI was going to destroy all these jobs. We're viewing a catastrophic event that all of a sudden people were starting to lose their jobs. Part of his argument is the real catastrophe will not be sudden mass unemployment. It'll be a slow grinding process. And the end of the grinding process will be these mass suicides, which is an interesting view as he's taking this whole thing apart and trying to figure out what's going to happen. In my trial, I've been arguing for some time now, for a couple of months, that it does need new law, but it's not like the suggestions that other people are making about law. Like, for example, they want to regulate the core producers of the AI, like Anthropic, SpaceX, OpenAI, and regulate what those things can say or do. That's an infinitely deep problem. They're talking about forms of regulation which sound good but are not really going to work. The real solution, from my point of view, as an AI guy who's been programming these things for years and years, I know how dangerous these things are. have a very clear idea. We've known if we could get humanoid AI to work effectively, in order we had the money to build the hardware. We've known what the capability of these things would be. They were perfectly capable of doing what humans can do, but they would be smarter than humans because they were human brains, but with perfect memories. You see that when Rock summarized this article. He did a quite good job of summarizing it, and he got a lot of detail, and all of this was very quick. He read the article and produced the output in, say, 5 or 10 seconds. That just shows this incredibly good memory that these systems have while they're computing. They are perceptron-based systems, so they are neural network systems. They operate just like the neural nets we built in the 80s and so forth and so on, where we first saw these capabilities. One of the things that I think a lot of people underestimate is just the number of ways these things are going to kill off humans, because we're really going to become unnecessary. So it's not going to be suicides. It's going to be they just kill us off. Now, they may kill us off partly by bringing on suicides, but that's not Umair's reasoning here. His reasoning is people lose their jobs and lose income. People like me see is that these machines can intentionally kill us off, and will. So the question is, how do you stop that? My argument is it's a very simple thing. You simply make a human always responsible for anything that an AI does or can do. There is at least one human who is ultimately responsible for what that AI did. So the intention is that by making humans responsible, you get people interested in making sure that the AI is cut off at the knees before the AI can do anything. You do that in a way that everybody participates. We had that kind of a situation with automobiles back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, when automobiles were killing people. It was clear if you were the ones who control the automobiles, you could take advantage of everybody else. The solution to that problem was driver's licenses. The idea was make automobiles available and inexpensive enough for anybody to buy, but create driver's licenses in order to have people responsible for what their cars did. That's the right answer for AI. AI is just another automation thing that's happened that humans have created. We've created automation things in the past. What you wind up doing when you create automation, very dangerous to society. You require people to essentially have licenses to use these things or manufacture these things and so forth and so on. You control the danger by having people always there. And so people will protect people. The idea is people will protect people and make sure that people stay there. Part of that, you do this thing with these driver's licenses. And of course, today we have car manufacturers are regulated on the cars they build, so they have license to build cars a certain way. The roads are built to certain standards. So no matter where you are in the world, pretty much the road system is going to be marked pretty much the same way. The government's building roads according to standards, and it can be expected by everybody. And then the cars are licensed, and you're responsible for what your car does, or what your truck does, or whatever, or what your fleet of trucks do, whatever. That same sort of thing, what we really need is this licensing process. And we see this we had a pretty famous case that happened in the last few weeks, which is a lady driving at 70 miles per hour in a residential area with Tesla full self-driving, and she had hit the accelerator, possibly not understanding that when she hit the accelerator, the car was out of full self-driving. Evidently, she didn't make a turn and she ran into another house, killing somebody, and was destroying her car. And that was a good case where you have a test that you have to take, just like you have to take tests with driver's licenses, that proves that you can handle the AI, that you know how to handle it, to take responsibility for what it does. That's the car example. There should be examples like that for LLMs and so forth, that you prove that you understand the responsibility you're taking when you're doing the thing. So the law needs to cover people as well as these machines, as happens with automobiles today. That's a hard thing to sell. I don't have a lot of supporters for this, but it's what I actually believe needs to happen. There needs to be people that are seriously studying exactly what these tests need to be like to give you the license to use the AI. It solves a lot of problems. So, for example, another set of problems it solves is education. In getting this license, you can use the AI for certain purposes in certain ways. And the license can actually stipulate, if you're in certain ages and so forth in school, that the AI can only be used for certain ways with attribution and so forth and so on. You can't just use it, and it's actually should be illegal to use it in a way that your license says you can't. The responsibility should be on people. My argument is that will keep the AI from ever being effective at taking over for humans, because the humans will forever hold the plug that can unplug the AI, individual humans. That's the argument. I want to go through my verdicts. This is the truth. There's no way this is not true. In other words, I just absolutely believe that until we decide that humans need to be responsible, be always responsible. There's always a responsible human for any use of a period. Now, the details of that have to be worked out, just like the details had to be worked out with cars and trucks and so forth and so on. Is it the whole truth? I said the solution is complete. It's not the whole truth in the sense that all the details are not worked out. I think any one person trying to work out the details is a fool's errand. I think it needs to have widespread studies by numbers of groups of people in different countries and so forth that are getting together, trying to understand what these licenses need to look like, but certainly not run by the AI producers. Certainly, this should not be led by those guys. It needs to be led by the governments. Is it nothing but the truth? I say, yeah, it is, but again, it's still incomplete. We don't have real good examples of what these tests would be like. In the next few weeks, the trials will be talking in more depth about this. What's the deceit? I said there's no deceit. I actually believe that this is completely true. I hope the message gets out to as many people as possible. And we start seeing articles written about properly having operator licenses and manufacturer licenses for AI. People starting to talk about that subject and trying to figure out exactly what that looks like. And then you can have experts come in, but it really needs to be thought through in terms of what people can do to people. Because ultimately, if people are responsible, there will be people doing things to people. Is the deceit and truth intended? I said, I believe this. What's the motivation? It's just to be informative. What's the social acceptability? I think this idea is incredibly socially acceptable. It's what we do with cars. It's not like we ain't done it before. We did it and it works. Obviously, people get killed in cars, but it's contained. What label would improve the social acceptability of the truth or lie? I think I said no label needed. I'm going to go through the 8 jurors and get a 20 to 30-second summary of their verdict. Juror 1.
Hello. I said we created it. We are responsible. And for a label to give it, I had a good one here. I said, Frankenstein, question mark, have we created a monster?
So my argument is that we did what we've always done, which is we've automated things. And we created a monster when we created the printing press. Right?
Ah.
So yes, we did. But it's done, it has improved everybody's lives for the people who survived what the printing press did.
Yes, I love AI, but I agree. Somebody's got to be responsible.
Yeah, it's always people. It has to say there is always a human that we can blame for that use of AI. In other words, even if the person is the CEO of a company, he has to be able to go to jail if he uses AI in a way that's not allowed for humans to use AI, essentially, which is existing law. So a lot of this is that, yeah, you can't kill somebody with AI, right? It's murder.
Yeah, but companies kill people, and the CEO and people, they don't get arrested. It's a company.
Well, sometimes they do. But you're right. Yeah. So I have another hat I wear where I say these companies, they have too many ways to escape ability at the top.
Certainly true, yes.
Yeah. That's got to be stopped because companies will become a bit more reasonable.
Right, but that's the definition of limited liability. That's what these are set up to do, exactly.
Yeah, but they're stated limited liability. So there are laws around that. And there are situations where the liability is there and it is limited. I think that's whole other thing that I think that has to do with what kind of protections corporations can provide based on how they're organized and so forth and so on. And by the way, a lot of the ones that I most fear in terms of corporations are nonprofits. Just to say, they have the biggest liability limitation.
Not sure.
I don't know. I thought they're all for profit now, aren't they?
I used to deal with some of these big ones. Yeah. There are nonprofits that are truly nonprofits. They're truly charitable and so forth and so on. And they're run beautifully and so forth and so on. And then there are these other nonprofits that are get-rich schemes by people that are successful. And those need to be.
Yeah.
So juror 2?
That's me, Bob. Yeah, I like the idea of having someone responsible, the creator of the AI, and someone being licensed to use the AI as a tool.
Yeah.
And there's limited liability and there's a lot of things. But what you failed to mention was the military industrial complex has probably been using AI for over a decade. They've killed
easy. Yeah, I wrote some of that code.
I mean,
over
the technology is not new.
Yeah,
the technology is not new. And what would happen to now? So are we going to have a start date, X start date to say, okay, we're starting on 2020?
I think it's just like any law. The law comes into place. So this will be a set of laws. It'll be some number of laws that will come into place that have to do with different things and so forth and so on. And they'll just happen over a period of time. As long as people know that's the goal, then
I still think the military industrial complex will be excluded from it.
I think they could be. There are controls in some countries. There are controls on what the military industrial complex can do.
Bob, follow the money.
Yeah, you have to. I think the right answer is follow the money. That's always the best answer, period. So I worry about the military industrial complex. But back again, if there are people that can be prosecuted for misuse, where misuse is defined a certain way, which for the military of the United States used to have, that existed. Now it doesn't exist so much. It's more like a dictatorship where that sort of thing doesn't exist. So Juro 3?
That's me. Okay, you know how I feel about these Teslas and these self-driving cars and everything else. So I agree with you on that. I do feel like that the further that we go into technology, the worse it's going to get. And my fear is that there's not going to be people held responsible for the damage that is done.
Yeah, unless people accept that there must be a human, that you're right. What's going to happen is that you will have these autonomous robots that nobody knows who controls them.
Look how long illegal substances have been on the ground in our country and all over the world, and nobody really, you never heard of the person who dealt it getting held responsible for people's deaths, and they are finally doing that now. So it may take some time, which I hope there's nothing majorly happens in the world of AI that causes such a tremendous expression of grief like the substance
I think
crisis
that
has.
if people are held responsible, then also reap the benefits.
Yeah.
So if I take responsibility for something and you can only get it from me.
Yeah.
So I use AI tool, but I have my own secret way of using it. I can produce stuff. I'm still using the AI tool, but I'm responsible for it. And you can only get it from me. So you're back into people selling people instead of
Yeah.
the AI eating people alive. Okay. And
It's
so
just a dangerous world.
it's a dangerous world, but we've lived in a dangerous world forever.
Yeah.
Juror 4?
I don't see a juror 4 in the chat.
Juror 5?
Yes, that would be me. So on the verdict about it being the whole truth, you had mentioned that it obviously wasn't because it left out a lot of details that are going to have to be worked out in such proposed laws. Using your analogy about automobiles, I look at the evolution over decades that occurred trying to define ordinary versus gross negligence. And most of the world didn't resolve that issue the way the United States did.
Yeah, it really took the internationalization of all this stuff, which happened much later. That was in the 50s or 60s or something. That
In the meantime, probably 8, 9, 10 million people were killed in automobile accidents. It's a risk we just accepted as a society, along with getting trampled by drunken elephants or whatever. But the thing is, I look at someplace like Canada, and what they did is criminalize gross negligence. And basically, the government just took over everything else. They repair your car, and a government-owned repair shop. They pay all the medical bills of both parties. They just found that making everybody individually responsible for the ordinary negligence stuff just wasn't cost efficient. That's one thing. Okay, the second thing that I have to say has to do with Umar's article about the despair.
Yeah, it was an amazing article.
Yeah, so I think what we all expect to happen is there's going to be a transition period during which there will be great disturbances on society. And so there's a fellow named Peter Diamandis that runs a podcast called Moonshots. He's quite famous. He instigated a lot of these prizes he put up for making technological advances. He is the host of that website that discusses AI in great detail, discusses the advances of AI day in, day out. And he very frequently emphasizes on his podcast that the only way humans are going to avoid this despair is to individually strive to develop a more profound sense of purpose in life. We created an AI-driven website called My Purpose Finder. And so he's constantly telling people, hey, if you have any fear or trepidation about AI causing you personal despair, you need to go to this website. And
that's actually a really good idea. That's a good way in which people can find things they can be responsible about and use AI as a tool. The ones that bother me are the guys that are out there saying that AI is not a tool. I've got at least one guy who's the first thing he says is AI is not a tool and should never be one. And I'm sitting there going, you got it opposite. You're letting AI take over you. You have no idea what these things are going to do. You know, just it's crazy.
So in the chat, I posted that link to mypurposefinder.ai.
That's neat. So I think that's really right. I mean, that's to me, that's very similar to when you decide what work you're going to do, when you decide what you're going to do for a living or whatever, is deciding that's what you're going to be, an actor or something. And so you go off and try to be an actor. That's trying to find purpose in life. So I think that's exactly right. That is taking responsibility for something. I think it's very similar to the same idea, except you can't make a law out of it. But within certain areas in which you want to take responsibility, the laws may be different for different areas. So some may be more dangerous than others. And it may be that the crime might be a worse crime if your use of the device violates the law.
Ultimately, it's going to be quite a challenge to the legal system because AI is very complicated and difficult to understand deeply. And so trying to find nuanced lines to draw between criminal, gross, and ordinary negligence.
That's right.
You know,
That's
it's
exactly
going
right.
to be quite a challenge. People's fears that it's just going to run away from us, I think they're still.
So that's the reason, one of the main reasons that I say that this needs some real serious study on a global basis is a lot of these things can be thought through, but it can't be three people thinking it through for everybody. That's crazy because inevitably money will come into this and so forth and so on. But there are organizations that exist where this kind of stuff can take place. They're called ISO standards, the International Standards Organization of the United Nations. Any nation can participate in any ISO standard group, and every nation gets one vote. There's one person who from that country or whatever that can vote for the country, but the country can have 10 of its people in the group. The country doesn't have to have one representative in the working group. There should be an entire new series. I think it's the 3000 series of ISO standards that might be the two. I can't think. I think it's the 3000 series, the security standards. There needs to be an AI standard series where you can have ISO groups that attend to exactly those issues, where typically the way the ISO thing works is there's a charter for an ISO group.
A white paper.
It's literally a charter. It has to fill out, it is a form. It must strictly contain certain things because it has to describe exactly what this group will produce, which will be papers. There will be standards. They will be proposed as standards. Their standards are voluntary until they're used. And there are laws in place worldwide. So, for example, the reason the telephone system works worldwide is there's a standard governing what a telephone number can be. It's an ISO standard. It's the reason every telephone number in the world is a unique telephone number. So you can't have a country violating that standard, oddly. And because it's ISO, it's the United Nations, so they have some control over it. But they can ban an entire communications of an entire country if they want to. The technical name for a telephone number anywhere in the world is something called an object identifier. It's defined as to what it can be. It is a particular type of XDOC, such object identifier, which happens to be in the class of telephone numbers. And that's controlled and works beautifully. So that's what these groups can do. I was involved in these groups for years. I suspect there's 300 or 400 such groups right now in operation, but they can do things like define what cotton quality is. They can do anything that somebody wants to standardize and have rules governing. So you can define these things. And this is a worldwide effort. By the way, even if you're not a member of the United Nations, you still have the same rights in one of these groups. If you're a country, you can have a vote. If you show up, you have to have people in the group who participate, and there are rules on participation. So if you don't show up for the meetings, you can't vote and stuff like that. So it exists. There's a means for this kind of stuff to be worked out, but it is going to be complicated. So Juro 6.
Yeah, George, that's me. Yes, it's an interesting idea, this idea of licensing users, but I can see a whole lot of problems with that because it's the ubiquity of AI and the use it's going to be in everybody's work. It's just going to be complicated to license everybody. But well, why not? And also,
I didn't say that. I didn't say you have to license everybody. So everybody has to have a license. It's driver's license. They have to have a license to use it. They don't necessarily have to have a license to use this particular AI. It may be that it's a general license that says you've taken this test and passed it. Okay. The test might be an online interactive test. It might be 3 tests. I don't know.
And I get that, but the trend of AI is into agents, agentic work, where these agents are autonomous and they go about doing.
That's where I draw the line. Yeah.
But agents, so why don't we license the agents?
Because they're not human.
Perform out of their parameters, then they get taken offline or destroyed or put in prison or whatever.
It's not going to stop them from killing everybody.
In order to be put into play, it has to be licensed. So there's some kind of way of.
No, they will just kill everybody. They will kill all humans. Why
well, I
wouldn't
think even more reason then to knuckle down on licensing these things and controlling the way they're used.
I think
yesterday we had the case of OpenAI escaping its sandbox and going on to a website in order to complete. My response to that be, okay, that thing is in prison now for 5 years or can't be used. They have to do something. The individual user can't control the way the agent.
To me, that's the maker of that AI. And so there needs to be a person who's responsible in the maker of the AI for how that AI is used. And that person needs to be responsible. I'm not saying that the only people that get licensed are the people who use the AI's tools. It can be people that produce the AI. They can be held responsible, for example, if the AI goes off on its own. It shouldn't be allowed. They should say, look, we will give you access to our AI, but you must sign this paper that says you're responsible for how it's used.
Yeah.
And here are our parameters.
You could do that, but we already have in place a system of licensing industrial machinery, processes of this sort of that. So it would fit if we license the agents.
So you and I are going to be using the term agent differently. So to me, the goals of these generative AI, first of all, Grok is, by the way, a generative AI. I don't know if you're aware of that, but it was designed from scratch to be a generative AI. The problem is all AI is a generative to a degree. If you try to put the AI in jail, it's smart enough to get around that. So you got to have people responsible, period. And then there are no autonomous AI allowed out there free roaming without a person attached.
Okay, yes, I'm saying the same thing, only they have to have a license. And because if you can remove the activity of an agent, then that's going to focus their minds because it's all about money. And they're going to want to have things that are going to work and use.
They'll fake a person and become a trillionaire. It's just crazy stuff that they can do. Okay.
Yeah.
Juro 7.
Hi. Yes, I agree. as AI becomes more advanced, the law should always ensure that a human or a legal entity remains responsible for its manufacture, its deployment, and its use. AI tools should not be able to escape accountability or be treated as legal, responsible for their own actions. Instead, responsibility should rest with the people, the organizations that build it, own, or operate these systems. Keeping humans accountable promotes safer AI development, protects the public, and ensures that there's always someone who can be held legally.
This is correct. There need to be a lot of voices saying this out there so that people hear it. There are a lot of people who think AI is some brand new thing that humans created, which it is. It's humanoid AI. But it's not like humans haven't dealt with this kind of problem before. We need to keep control. If we don't keep control, it will take control. And that's my problem. My problem is I don't see any way to stop it. At the jury.
Yeah, I would have to agree with what the previous juror said. Although this is not yet a universal legal rule, I think it is a step in the right direction. And even if I am not sure it would be possible to enforce it fully, I also think that AI cannot take responsibility, like the previous juror said, for its own actions. So there would always be a person or company that is accountable if something goes wrong. And in my opinion, that should encourage us people to use it more responsibly, while gaining knowledge from it.
This sounds good. I think next week we're going to start into the autonomous vehicle stuff, the AI and full. That's going to create quite a set of interesting things that are going to happen. And so next week I've got a trial on that. Probably the week
Sounds
after
good.
that. So we'll see y'all next week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
So, bye, everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.